What is up, Remodelites? Dave here with Remodel Media, and in this episode we are going to dive into the chief complaint of every kid who's ever been asked to clean up after dinner. And that is,
Mom, why do we have to wash the dishes before we wash the dishes?
let's get into it. So picking the right dishwasher can come down to a few different things. European style units that are coming out of places like Samsung and Korea and things like that. But you do have the American versus European style of dishwasher, and you have plastic tub and stainless steel tub dishwashers. You also have differences in the appearance with the door. You have panel ready, concealed control, or exposed control. These are some broad categories. Every brand does theirs just a little bit differently, but we're going to break down those options, and then I'm going to put some links in the description below to my favorite dishwasher in each category. So a classic example of an American style dishwasher is going to be something like this Amana unit right here. Exposed controls, plastic tub interior, exposed heating element on the bottom, and a hard food disposer in the bottom. Let's dive into how this unit works. This is your base level unit. It's probably most commonly found in tract homes, apartment complexes, things like that, where the person putting it together is looking for the cheapest way out. So this unit, you probably will have to wash the dishes before you wash the dishes, because it's not really made for performance as much as it is made for rinsing and sanitizing the dishes. On the subject of sanitation, however, a plastic tub does hold more bacteria than a stainless steel tub. This is medical facts. Plastic is a porous surface and stainless steel is not. There's a reason they make operating tables out of stainless steel, because the surface naturally inhibits the bacteria growth. That's the first thing to keep in mind. The heating element. Now, anybody who's ever had a Tupperware lid knows that heating elements and plastic do not mix. So we've all had that instance where a Tupperware lid falls through the rack on the top, goes to the bottom, and gets warped or melted by the heating element in the dishwasher. The exposed heating element is not a very efficient method. And to be honest, the hard food disposer, that little impeller, is not very efficient either, because what it's trying to do is it's trying to take larger chunks of food, chop them into smaller chunks of food, and trying to shove those chunks down the drain. Drains weren't meant to put chunks of food down. They were meant to put liquid waste down. Remember, the drain tube on your dishwasher is only about this big around. A traditional example of a European style dishwasher is something like this Bosch over here. Now you'll notice a couple of neat features. First of all, it's a solid stainless steel interior, which means it's going to be more antimicrobial than something with a plastic interior. The second thing you'll notice right away is there's no heating element. So the heating element is actually in the back of this unit. It's heating up the water as it goes in, instead of something on the bottom that's heating up inside the tub. This particular unit happens to have a third rack. I happen to like a third rack as opposed to the baskets. Once you go third rack, you never go back. So a couple of points to consider when you're thinking about a European style dishwasher is that lack of heating element means that there's not going to be a drying cycle, which means the water is just going to naturally evaporate from the dishes, and anybody wanting to pull their dishes out and have them bone dry, better get something with a heating element on the bottom, or get used to the idea that you might have to wipe your dishes down before you put them away. The trade-off there is your dishes are going to be more likely to come out clean without needing to wash them before you wash them. So there's a trade-off there. One of the reasons Bosch happens to be so good in this area is they have a laser, a turbidity sensor, that actually measures the cloudiness of the water and adjusts the cycle accordingly. So what happens is you put dirty dishes in and clean dishes come out. Now I do want to make one little disclaimer. The Bosch Ascenta models. These are the base models that Bosch has, and they basically took every feature that makes it a Bosch and took it out. So the model I just showed you is a model with a solid stainless steel tub, lifetime warranty against leaks on this stainless steel tub. And the Ascenta models are a stainless steel on 3 sides, plastic on the bottom. The Bosch Ascenta models are not as quiet as their big brothers. They also do not have a leak sensor. So in the model I just showed you, you couldn't see it, of course, because it's underneath the tub, but should there ever be a leak anywhere else in the unit, it will shut the water supply off and give you an error message and tell you to call service. So you end up with very minimal cleanup when or if you do have a leak. Another thing to note about a inline water heater is that inline water heater can get the water temperature up to 160 degrees, which is what you would need to kill bacteria. Another important note for Thermador, Bosch, and Gaggenau models, which are all produced by BSH. In addition to having the stainless steel interior and most of them having the third rack, one feature that they all have is a soft food disposer, and that's as opposed to the impeller that we saw with the Amana unit. The soft food disposer is actually a really important detail. What that means to you is that a soft food disposer is going to, instead of trying to shove those chunks down the drain, what's going to happen now is, you see this mesh screen? The water is going to push that food up against the mesh screen, and it's going to turn that food into mush. And it's going to send mush down the drain. Anything that cannot be sent down the drain is caught, and you can dispose of it properly, which means this unit is going to clog up far less often than something with a hard food disposer. You also have the option on certain models to have a water softener. I highly recommend it. You put the salt in here, and what that does is if you've ever washed a brand new glass and it comes out looking not quite the way it did before and you can never quite get it back to normal, that means the minerals in your water have permanently etched that glass. So this water softener will protect your dishes far better than something that does not have a softener in it. It uses dishwasher reactivation salt, which is not very expensive and only needs to be refilled, depending on use, a couple times a year. You can run your unit without the salt in it, but I highly recommend it. Now, the inside of a KitchenAid dishwasher typically is all stainless steel and has the exposed heating element. They have different wash arm positions depending on the model, so I recommend doing some research onto which one you like the best. But something they all have is that exposed heating element at the bottom. Now, remember I said if you want a good dishwasher that washes the dishes without having to wash the dishes first, but you also want the dishes to come out dry, then I'm going to recommend selecting the KitchenAid dishwashers. I'll put my links to the most popular models down below. One thing a lot of KitchenAid dishwashers are starting to do now is the soft food disposer, although some of them will still have a hard food disposer as well, so that's another thing to be aware of. Now, Fisher & Paykel is the only manufacturer that produces drawer dishwashers. Now, these do have plastic tubs, just because to make them out of stainless would be highly impractical. But they do have some really cool elements, such as the fact that the top drawer is actually the tall rack, instead of having the bottom drawer being the tall rack where you put your pots and pans in a typical dishwasher. They can be a little tricky to install though, so I recommend making sure your installer is familiar with the product before having them do the work. You can also get a water softener in these models as well. The last option on most models is a cosmetic one. You can choose the front of your dishwasher that has the exposed controls and a recessed handle. You can choose one that has the controls on the top with a towel bar style handle, or you can choose something that blends completely with the cabinetry and is panel ready, again with the controls on top. All of these options are fine and they're usually available in most brands.